Hello guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today we have someone that you haven't seen here before. Well, you made some videos, don't you? You did, right?
I have done one or two videos so far.
Yes, so, but never on the podcast.
No,
So,
I've been waiting for my chance.
Okay, so now it's your chance. We had a time. And guys, this is Lachlan. I'm an account manager here at ACY Securities.
Yes.
So welcome. Thank you so much to
Thank
be
you for having
here.
me.
Yeah. We're going to be discussing, lots and lots of topics. But if you want to start saying something, it's yours, the camera.
Sure, okay. Well, I guess maybe I'll start with and go into a little bit more detail about what I do here.
Perfect, that's
people.
awesome, yes.
So I'm one of the account managers or sales traders, however you want to word it. And what I do here is I look after the more active and the top end clients within ACY.
Perfect.
We don't give advice here, so we deal with people who are trading with their own money and they want to trade with their own money.
Perfect.
But these are people who run their own businesses. These are professionals, whether it be a lawyer or an engineer or something like that.
Right.
And maybe they don't have all the time in the world to sit there in front of the screens all day, or maybe they do. Maybe they just want to make sure that they're dealing with professionals and they have someone that they can speak
that
to.
know what they're doing as well.
Yeah, and look, trading is a very lonely game. Like, I think, it wasn't until I was like 5-6 years into trading before I actually met someone that I could talk to about markets.
True.
So
I agree.
having the privilege of being able to pick up a phone and talk to someone who's actively in the markets every day.
On the trading floor every day.
And that's what people want. Not everyone wants, a full service broker where they're giving advice and charging enormous fees.
Yes,
to get
that's
it.
another thing, yes.
They just want to be able to pick up the phone, speak to someone, get tailored research. I've dealt with almost every style of trading you can think of.
Scalping, swing trading, stocks, forex, commodities, everything.
And I hear about new ideas every day.
Every day.
And when you're looking at all the different news and you're looking at all these different charts, you can spot straight away, okay, this is exactly what George likes, for example. I'm going to take a screenshot of this, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to send that to him.
So you're basically looking, the guy, let's say he has a business, he's running his own business, he has a family, kids, everything. He's worried to get a better future for the family, but therefore he don't have much time to look at the screens 24/7.
Yeah.
As you have time because this is your job.
Yeah.
So what do? You pretty much get these research and send to Jam across.
Exactly.
And have a chat afterwards.
Exactly.
That's
I can look at their trading and pick up on patterns, and I'll give you an example. I was doing some data analysis on a particular client's trading.
Yep.
And I could see that when they were doing manual trades, so when they were logging in and saying, okay, I want to buy euro dollar.
Okay.
Versus when they were placing trades via pending orders, which were happening overnight.
Yep.
Right? Those pending orders overnight, when they weren't in front of the screens, had a very high success rate. That was his most profitable part of his trading.
Okay.
But the manual trades, when he's awake actually doing it, weren't so good. And what that tells me straight away is that you're making emotional decisions when you're sitting in there logged in looking at it.
That is 100% correct.
But when you actually sit there and you think, you do your analysis and you plan your trade and you put the orders on and it's happening overnight where you don't even have the ability to look at it, that's when you're doing very well. So how can we set up some sort of a trading strategy or a plan for you where you're not able to make these emotional decisions?
Okay.
And that's something that I feel like anyone has the brains to figure out over a long time period. But someone like myself who's literally paid to sit here and look at all these things and give this, those little bits of advice that I can give, that can make all the difference for a client.
And for free.
Yeah, for free.
Thanks, man. That's a very, very good explanation. What you do here at ACY. Thanks for that. Now, I want to know a little bit, and I guess everyone here want to know as well about the whole thing. How did you get into the market? Because how old are you? 20?
I'm turning 27 in a month.
27 in 1 month?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. I'm 22, I'm turning 23.
I can't believe how young you are sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I feel, since I've been here, and a lot of the people I've dealt with, I've probably learnt the most from you.
Oh, really?
And I like to think you're older than me sometimes.
Okay, that's good.
Then you tell me your age like then, and I feel very not so great.
Okay. Yeah, I'm turning 23 in December, so in a few months still. But yeah, look, mate. I want to know, and I guess as I was saying, everyone here want to know as well. How did you get into trading? How this passion? Because I can see that you're very passionate about stocks, and I want to know why and what's the reason behind it. So tell us a little bit how long have you been in the market? 10 years somewhere?
Yeah, I would say probably around like maybe 15, 16 years at the moment. And
Oh, wow.
So I got involved in it at a very, very young age when I was probably about 11.
Right.
And
That's very young.
yeah, and look, and there's a reason for that. So a lot of people, I think, they find trading because they're looking for some sort of way to make an income. I would say trading found me. Just somehow it just put me in the right place and the right mindset to really capitalize on it. And I'll tell you why. So growing up, I wouldn't say I was poor. I had everything that I needed. I grew up in Australia, one of the best countries
yeah.
in the world,
Yes.
as you would know.
Yes, I know.
And look, I was aware growing up that money was an issue for my family. You know, I remember times where I'd be very young, you know, going to the kitchen to get food at night, and I'd be walking back to my room, and I could hear my mother crying, and I would, you know, like most kids, I would walk up to the bedroom, or like, what's going on in here?
What's going on there, yeah.
And I could tell straight away it was about money issues, right? Single mother, 4 kids, you can imagine what it was like.
4 kids, yes.
Again, she did an amazing job. We had everything we ever needed, and there's so many good qualities that I got from her, and I'm incredibly grateful. But
yeah.
I was aware that money was an issue, and I knew that I needed to do something.
You need to do something.
I wasn't able.
Are you the only man in the family?
Yeah, only one. So
yes. I completely understand that.
Yeah, I think it's maybe like a thing that's in our brains. Where
Correct.
If you're in it, you go, I got to provide.
I got to provide something. Yes.
And so I remember. So my grandfather, right, one of the most successful people I've ever met. Incredibly intelligent, achieved everything you can possibly think
Grandfather.
of.
Okay.
And on my mother's side, so my mother's father.
Okay.
And he, you know, he wasn't rich, but he was well off. He was able to provide for everyone, right? And
That's
I think
awesome.
that's part of the reason why we weren't, you know,
Yeah.
really bad off, right?
Yep,
It's because of him. And I was always fascinated. I was like, how come this guy has so much money and he doesn't work? And
That's a good option. That's
my
a
mum's
good
working
thinking.
all the time, and we have
don't
nothing.
have money. Yes.
And so I would ask, like most kids, I was curious. I was like, what's going on here? And Mum said, you know, he did a bunch of things. He was a business owner, he was a pilot, but he was a very good investor in stocks. And, you know, this is the first time hearing about it. I'm like, stocks? And, you know, she gave me a very...
That's 11 years old.
Yeah, probably about 10, 11. Well, this is around 2008, conveniently, around
2008?
GFC. Yeah.
Oh, GFC was right happening on that time.
And another thing that was also happening, so I remember one of my best friends growing up, they had a pretty nice house down the road from me. Mm-hmm. And I remember they sold it to downsize it in 2008. And we were all confused as to why. And he told me, and again, he's my age, I don't think he really knew, but he says, oh, my father's money was invested in stocks and they're not going so well. So we had to downsize. And so I'm kind of hearing from that.
Stocks. Yeah,
I'm like, this is important and it's around money. I got to learn what this is. And I started doing my own research. I obviously had access to a computer then. We're of that age where we grew up with the internet. And I started learning a little bit more about stocks. And then now whenever I'm around...
Stop there for a minute, because you said something very, very nice about computers. Because you had access to the internet in 2008.
Yeah.
Think about your grandfather.
No, he didn't.
That he didn't have access to the internet and maybe computer once a year.
Yeah.
Right? Because my grandmother, she always tells me, like, look, you guys are so privileged to have like internet, like everything you just type on Google, boom, it gets to you like in milliseconds, you know? So imagine your grandfather, how, you know, he built his wealth not having the internet.
Oh, absolutely. Like
imagine if he could have access to this.
He would have been, I think he valued family and enjoyment of life over money.
That's good.
I think if he was one of these like cutthroat business guys, we would probably all know about him. I wouldn't have to describe who he was, put it that way.
Awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, he actually grew up during the Great Depression. So I remember him telling me stories of like the things they had to do to get money to eat. Wow. And
it's a completely different reality.
Yeah.
And sometimes we wake up and think like, oh, this is a life, you know, when it's, man, just look around. just look around and get a bit of enjoyment of your life. But anyways, yeah, so you got the computer, you got access to the internet, and then you start to searching about stocks.
Yeah, so I remember going on the ASX website. They had a few educational bits and pieces on there, and
Yep.
all it really did was originally I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought this is easy, and
Just pick something and
Yeah.
put the money there.
and I was just harassing my grandfather with questions, like most kids, and he kind of taught me the basics. I remember asking him, what's inflation? Because I would just always hear about it.
That's
And now,
a really good
now
topic.
it's very a big topic, but
Yeah.
back then I was like, what is?
Some people still don't know.
Oh, of course they don't.
Some people still don't know, okay? You will be surprised.
Of course, and you know, he kind of taught me the basics. He had like this office in his house, and he had his computer, and he would sit there all day. It was all like World War II books and models of planes and all that. But there was a section for stocks, and I spent a lot of time there. And he kind of taught me the basics of looking at a financial statement, how to calculate the cash, how to calculate the debt, the enterprise value, comparing it to its peers. So, okay, because here's the thing, you know what I always say to people? It's very prevalent in stocks. Is people talk about this big idea that's happening in the market. Like, I think here's this huge problem that needs to be solved. It could be something to do with AI, it could be whatever.
Yep.
And I think it's going to take off. But then where people go wrong is they just pick one stock within that sector, and then because they don't know anything about that sector or the company, they get it wrong. Whereas if they were to just look at the sector as a whole, maybe take a few different plays within that sector, or even just being able to find one and compare it to its peers like I was taught. So for example, okay, let's say you think AI is going to take off, which it has, right? But let's just say this was 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
You would look, okay, which company has the most innovative product? Which one is growing its revenues the best? Which one has the most cash, the least amount of debt? Which one's enterprise value is the most?
Wasn't I was just thinking, was it NVIDIA back in 2-3 years ago? It was NVIDIA.
It was Nvidia and Amazon were the two biggest ones that were mentioned, and Google. And Google has been a letdown so far.
Okay, Intel.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, all these companies are now involved in AI. It's kind of like you've got .com
They
at the
had
end of it.
Yeah, that's correct. The .com. Yeah.
But I mean, look, I would say at the moment, the ones that are the clear leaders are obviously Nvidia.
Yeah.
Then you've got Microsoft, because I guess they have
Yes,
maybe the largest
Microsoft,
stake
yes.
in OpenAI.
100%.
And if you're able to identify these things and you're just able to compare it to its peers, and you can take maybe a more broader approach to the sector, it allows you to capitalize on it a lot better than just basically punting, right? And those are a few things that I picked up from my grandfather. And again,
Just mark it down.
and again, I was probably about 11 years old at this time, and I just got obsessed with it. Like, everyone's passionate about something. I'm very fortunate that the thing that I'm passionate about is all about making money.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a good one.
You see people, they're passionate about candles or something, scented candles. They can tell you about all the different scents and why they like it.
That is true.
It's cool. I have nothing
against them.
But good luck making money with that. And I'm sure, look, there
are ways.
There's definitely a business behind it, but there's definitely more of a business behind it.
Oh, actually, talking about that, I went with my girlfriend to a candle shop.
Yeah.
And I was surprised how expensive they could get.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
they're good,
$180 for something that you will light up and will, like, for 7 days, and it's gone. Like,
and this
wow.
Was this a store that just did expensive?
Yeah, like glass house.
Well, you know what? Introduce me to the owner, because I would like to look at their financials, because as soon as they start to take off or go down, that's when I know either recession's over or still going.
True,
right?
That's
because who has money to spend that money?
True, exactly. Candles? That's I did spend, but that's another thing. When I go to those types of stores, like, not luxury stores, but some way of getting into luxury. The middle of luxury and like middle class. And I think, wait a minute, inflation is at 4%, and you telling me that this piece of paper is costing $50? Would you pay $50 for this piece of paper?
Absolutely not.
No one would. It's literally a piece of paper. There's nothing here, right? Why someone did pay for that then?
Well, people have a lot of money, particularly in this country, and I think people are conditioned. I mean, globally, people are conditioned to spend more. We've been heavily marketed to everywhere we go. To
Exactly,
this day.
the marketing, right? So the society right now is towards spending, and don't look at the price anymore.
Yeah.
And that is generating more and more inflation.
Yeah.
Especially on these inflationary, as we're living right now. Sorry to tell you or not, but it's an inflationary period.
Yeah.
The central bank is trying to control this inflation, with hiking the rates, but it haven't worked.
Well, we were actually having this discussion in the kitchen one afternoon, and
Yeah,
we're talking
me and
about
you, right?
the current monetary policy, how they intervene is about 100 years old.
Yes.
And I don't think it clearly doesn't work anymore, because when you increase interest rates, well, the actual business owners, they just pass that on to the consumer, which is typically low
Correct.
middle income.
The PC,
and then it just causes the prices of assets to go up.
Go up.
When you increase interest rates now, because people are so conditioned to spend, myself included, I spend money like crazy. I don't know how I do it.
Yeah.
The people they're not going to stop their spending. They just somehow either get into more debt or they find some other way to do it.
True.
Right. So this policy, when you increase rates, all you do is take more money from the low to middle income, and then you increase the price of assets.
Yes,
for the wealthy,
correct.
which is not the goal.
Yes, that's correct. You're pretty much passing on. You're pretty much taking the money from poor to giving to the richest,
Yeah.
and this is the only way that can do. And it happens once over 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
So there is a cycle, right? There's the economic cycle, and I completely agree with you, because if we look back to 100 years, it's still the same concept.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, I was looking at a very nice video that the guy was showing. Okay, so here is a car 100 years ago, and then he flips. This is the car now. A big change. We all know, right?
Yeah.
This is a house 100 years ago. Then he flips. This is a house now. Completely different. And then he flips. This is the monetary policy 100 years ago, and then he flips again. Still the same.
Yeah.
So no changes.
Yeah, 100
right?
years ago.
So it's exactly the same thing, and nothing has changed since there. If you want to change it, that's going to be a headache, and I don't even know how they would.
No, I don't either.
Because that's going to be such a big problem, and they have to do such slowly, otherwise they can explode the economy. And I think the first thing that would explode would be the real estate market again.
Absolutely.
Because the government is so leveraged, so do the people. They're so leveraged. Leverage. When I mean leverage, they're getting more than what they can afford. Okay, and who is the fault of this? Is the central bank fault? Because the central bank is giving liquidity to commercial banks, and commercial banks are acting on behalf of the central bank to the interest rates, right? So we have cash rate and interest rates. One is what the commercial bank takes from the central bank, and the other is what the commercial bank gives to you as Lachlan. I want to buy a property. Okay, here's the cash rate for you. Cash rate is 7%. Interest rate is 4%. So they're 3% more on the money that they're giving to you. Anyways, so that's a very hard discussion, because same time as if they change the way that the monetary policy goes around, they would have to change the way that the money goes around as well, because this has been worked for 100 years all over. But yeah, you're completely right. I think we, when talking about making wealthy decisions, everything becomes like make a business.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it may be in America or even Australia, where if you introduce a new law, you have to take away 2 or something like that. I've heard that somewhere, and I don't know if it's applied, but I think if you're a central bank and you decide, okay, we need to tighten up monetary policy because inflation's going out of control, well, that's fine. You can do what you deem fit, but you can't do that unless the government as well at the same time is also going to introduce policies to do it. Because if they're looking at the prices of housing, for example, in Australia, which is out of control, and they're saying, okay, we're going to increase interest rates to combat this, Well, if you look at the top end of real estate, it's only gone up the past couple of years.
Yes.
It hasn't made any difference.
Always the high end always go up.
Well, what's the government doing to do it? Maybe they do a couple of grants for first home buyers and everything. But, there's a few things they could do.
They're actually doing it.
Yeah, I know they do that now.
Okay.
But one thing I guess maybe they could do, and there's many ideas they could do, but I believe in Queensland they have a cap on how much you can raise rent by. So if your interest payments double, but you can only increase your rent by 10-20%, well, now that's an unaffordable loan. And if you can't afford that anymore, you have to sell it.
Yeah.
And if everyone sells it, that causes the prices to go down. Whereas here in Sydney, as I've experienced, they can raise your rent by as much as they want. So
Right.
Increase the rates, I don't care. There's always going to be demand to live in the eastern suburbs or in the city. People got to work. So I'm just going to increase the rent and everyone's going to have to find a way to pay for it. So, okay, you can tighten up monetary policy, cool. But you also got to have the other part of our government doing something to combat it as well. And I'm not really seeing anything like that.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And actually, something happened with one of my friends, actually. That was a bit tricky, to be honest, okay? Because the landlord, he was paying rent, and it's not a cheaper rent, my friend, I can tell you that. It was $1,500 a week.
Yeah.
So $1,500 a week. A massive property, like really, really huge.
In where in Sydney?
Kellyville.
Kellyville, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's a very good area.
Yeah.
So 1.5 per week. So we're talking about around $6,000 a month, right?
Yeah,
Around
a lot.
$6,000 to $7,000 a month. Only in rent. The landlord comes in and say, look, we're gonna sell the property.
Okay.
And then we need the property back, so you have a month to get out of here. Or you can pay $2,000 a week.
Yeah, there we go.
Or you can pay $2,000 a week. And then you think about it. Okay, he ended up, not paying the $2,000 because that was super overpriced. And the landlord didn't wanted to sell the property, but he wanted the property back. So it's a very tricky thing here,
Right.
because they can't come and ask you, look, we want the property back. They can't come to you and say, look, we want to put the $2,000 the rent, because that's more than 10% of the value. So that time 10% would be $150.
Yeah.
So they could put to $1,650 maximum, right?
Yeah.
But if they ask the property back, then there is a breach on the law that you can ask for more. I don't know. But now the property is renting already for someone else. Mm-hmm. So that was very tricky situation. But that shows to us that, look, I don't care. I will put the rent up. People will pay.
Yeah.
People will pay.
Look at how much. Look how many people are coming to Australia every year, and they're all coming into the one area.
80,000 to 100,000
You've got
people.
a landmass the size of America, South America, Africa almost, Europe, and there's only 5 cities, and really only 2 of them are major. I don't know what's happening in Perth. I don't know. I've been to Brisbane. There's nothing happening in Brisbane.
Not much.
No offense to anyone from Queensland, but look, there's not that much.
They lost this week, didn't they?
Yeah, so cop that. But yeah, look, I mean, even when you're there, look, Sydney's a great place to live. The public transport is very good if you compare it to its peers.
Oh, very good.
And there's just a lot to do. There's a lot of opportunities here if you're willing to work.
A beautiful day, actually.
Yeah, look, the weather's usually quite good.
Yeah.
It's a great place to live, and that's where everyone's coming to go.
Yes.
And that's where all the exuberant prices are.
Yeah. Actually, now asking a question regarding immigration, right?
Yes.
Do you think that with these higher rates, the immigration will be do you think that the government will block more people to get into Australia because of the inflationary effects and the higher rates? Because more people getting in means more spending.
Yes.
And more spending means more inflation, and that's what they don't want to.
Yeah, so my opinion on that is, if you look at New Zealand, for example, I believe they've technically entered a recession.
A recession, yes, that's correct.
Now, Australia would most likely be in the exact same boat if they didn't have as much immigration. Okay? So, you want GDP to continue growing because it's not a good look if you're the party in power.
Yeah.
And you also, we've got a very aging demographic. I don't know if you've walked around, but I see more old people than young people, to be honest with you.
That is true.
And
That is true.
our parents, they're still of the age where they're healthy and they can do things.
Yeah.
But in 10 years, that's probably not going to be the case. And now they're going to need looking after. That's going to be a massive burden on the system. We're not having enough babies because people can't afford it. It's unaffordable. And so you need to bring in labor, right? And I'm not against bring as many people as you want. You just got to get divvy it up among the states maybe.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I believe immigration is a cheap cop-out to the problems of declining birth rate, aging demographic, and no GDP. Our whole industry is mining and houses.
Correct.
We don't really have anything else. Now, I'll go into some stocks that I think are innovative in Australia that are doing well. We do have the surprising companies that are innovative and growing their revenues massively, but we don't have a ton of it. We don't have a massive industry outside of mining and housing. And I guess you've got to bring people in, figure it out. Let's see what happens.
That's good. That's a good point. All right. I know you're very, very big on stocks.
Yes.
I've separated some stocks here to ask you some questions.
Yes.
Okay. So one that is very curious for me is DroneShield.
Yes.
Okay, is the DRO from the ASX.
Yes.
We've seen since the IPO in 2016.
Yes.
Since 2022, 2023, it haven't done literally anything. But then in this year, and from mid of last year to now, basically 1 year, it has like just crazy, right? I don't know if you guys know about DroneShield, but DroneShield is a company that makes softwares and technologies about drones, literally drones, for war, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's more like drone detection. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah, drone detection, that's correct.
So it's kind of like a defense company, a security company. So for example, I remember I was down at Jervis Bay probably about 4 or 5 years ago with my friends.
Okay.
And there's a Navy base there, if you're unaware.
Yeah, I know that.
And my mate had a drone, just got one, and he's flying it around. And we're literally flying over the Navy base, looking at everything, right? Now, we're two Aussies. We're not up to any good, right? But someone could be. Right?
Yes.
You can imagine, right? And I imagine maybe in places like America where things are a bit more sensitive.
Yes.
It's a problem that needs to be addressed. It's kind of like there's this new technology that comes out, like AI, that is incredibly useful, very innovative. Everyone wants to use it, but then that comes with a bunch of other problems that need to be solved, which creates other industries and other companies. Now, again, I'm not the guy that's going to figure out the solution, right? But I can see it's a problem. And okay, from there, I can see, is there a company that looks to address it? Then when I find a company, okay, who's the management? What are their qualifications? Do they come across as legitimate, intelligent figures of authority in that industry? Yes. Can I compare them to their peers? Is there any other peers? In some cases, there may not be much. In some, there may be many. And then I look at the revenue. Is there actually revenue? It's all good having an idea and sounding smart, but is there actually revenue to back this up? Are they earning any money? And
are they actually being able to being a profitable company and reinvest the money into? Yeah, that's correct.
And this company, I think for the past several quarters, has been averaging about 250% of revenue growth per
every quarter,
which is massive. Right, so I see that and okay, this is a real business. You look at what's happening in Ukraine and Israel right now. It's a problem that needs to be addressed and it's not going away. Now I know, okay, this is a company that perhaps I want to be involved in, but now as a trader, I have to time this. And that's where looking at things like chart patterns, in my case, there's many ways you can do it, but I'm looking for, okay, is there evidence that this stock has been accumulated by institutions or a large amount of money? It doesn't always have to be institutions, but it's just a large amount of money. And you can see that with stocks in particular, as opposed to FX, because it goes through a centralized exchange. So everyone who buys this stock, you can see that on the volume. So if you're able to link up the price action with the volume, you're able to spot things like accumulation. Okay. And then there's support for this stock. And you can even look at a stock and say, okay, who are the top holders? And you can see the institutions.
Yeah, because it's public, right?
Yeah.
It has to be public. That's correct. On Forex, you can't do that because it's a decentralized market.
Yeah. If you could see volume on FX, it would be a lot easier.
Oh, it would be. It definitely
it would be a lot easier.
Yeah. People claim that they can, having those indicators and blah blah blah, but that's impossible.
Yeah. And so, okay, I've identified a good company, a great management, growing their revenue, innovative product, in the right industry. I can see accumulation on the chart and it's broken out and it's in an uptrend now. I only want to trade within an uptrend. I don't like...
So you're only long stocks, you're never shorting stocks?
Yeah, I've tried shorting, but what I've found, shorting is a great way to stroke your ego, but it's not a great way to make money.
Yeah, because some people here don't know, but tell them what's the problem between shorting a stock?
Well, it's not always easy in terms of getting borrowed, but that's not the main problem, really. Okay, especially if you're a smaller trader, you can just do it via a CFD, and it's very easy to do. The big problem, if you look at most indexes over the past 100 years, they tend to have an average return per year on an annualized basis of anywhere around 8 to 10%. So you're basically betting against a big long-term trend like that. It makes more sense to go with it as against. Now, with that, people are going to say, okay, but what about crashes and everything like that? Of course, that happens, but there's two ways to mitigate that. One, you manage your risk, and two, which I'll get into, which I think is key to any strategy, is you have to be able to identify the ideal time to apply your strategy. Now, mine...
Not only going there and
Yeah, I think there's probably like 2 or 3 months of the year where I actually trade the market. In fact, if I showed you my account, I can show you the per year performance. You'll see that it's like sideways, bang, sideways, bang. And that's because that sideways is me. I'm not doing anything. I'm literally just sitting here doing anything. Maybe I have some long-term holds in there, cool. But then I found the ideal time, and I'm going for it.
I'm on the market then.
I'm going for it. And that applies to every strategy. I know you do a few quant different styles of trading, which is beyond my mental capacity, which is again why I'm always trying to learn things from you. But even when you show me your charts, the performance, straight away you can see, okay, when the market's trending or whatever it is, you do incredibly well. When it's not, you don't. So then you need to be able to identify market conditions and know where to apply it, which I'll get into, which is what I do with stocks. So, okay, so we've identified, we found a great company, I can see accumulation, it's broken out of it, it's in an uptrend, now I want to trade it. And with the uptrend, I find, and again, everyone will be able to spot this, is that nothing ever just goes up in a straight line. It pulls back, it tends to consolidate, and then it breaks out again, if it may. Now, I call those a base, right? It's got bases along the way. So it's up, retracement, that's a base one, and so on.
That's a nice way,
And I've calculated from my own analysis, because I've had a trading diary for probably the past 10 years, that when a stock enters an uptrend, it typically has around 4 to 5 bases before it's at the end.
Okay, so 4 to 5 retracements until it gets to an end and do a reversal.
Yeah. Okay. So to add on that, so there's a gentleman called Stan Weinstein, so he's like an OG stock trader. Okay. And he had a concept called stage analysis, and he said there's 4 stages that a stock will enter into. Accumulation, which is what I mentioned before. You've got uptrend, which is what I look to trade. Then you've got distribution, which is known as the market top. That's when the big institutions who accumulated it, well, they need market euphoria in order to exit their position. They can't just dump 100 million worth of shares like we can. They need euphoria. They need someone to buy that when they dump it. So you can spot that distribution, and then you've got a downtrend. So I'm only looking at that uptrend, and within that uptrend, I find that there's usually around 4 to 5 bases to trade. And so what I do, I go, all right, the first 3, I'm willing to trade with full risk on attitude. Around the 4th, which I would say NVIDIA's at right now.
More cautious. I want to talk about NVIDIA later as well.
So I would say when I get to that 4th base, maybe I'm only putting on half or 70% of normally what I would put on.
Okay.
And then on that 5th, I'm not touching it. And again, doesn't mean I can't go to a 6. I've seen that happen, but we're looking at probability.
That's correct. Trading is probability in the end of the day. You're getting a set of data and analyzing the set of data and making trading decisions on the future based on the analyze the trading data. Okay, so what do you think about DroneShield? You thinking there is more opportunity to continue to go higher, or do you guess it's is a done point there? Over the long term, it's on 56 cents, isn't it?
No, it's at it was at 56. Now it's gone all the way up to about $1.30. And actually, no, $1.50. Sorry, my apologies.
$1.50. Okay.
So it's had a massive parabolic run.
So this was a 200% run. Okay.
No, it's done since basically the end of last year. It's done almost 500%.
That's really good.
Which on the ASX is massive. I would say it's probably the leader right now on the
Is it?
ASX.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say, because when the stock market goes up, there's usually probably one or two industries that are leading it. And within those, that's where I look to trade. And this, I can't really find any other stocks that aren't some penny stock. It's $1 billion company with actual revenue and earnings that's performed as well as it has.
Yep.
And you know, we've because it's had such a parabolic run. It's been a while since it's had a proper retracement that I could trade.
Yeah, I was looking at the chart as well. It was
Yeah.
a long time it didn't have a retracement. Okay.
So it's due for a bit of sideways action.
A sideway.
Yeah, a bit of sideways. I would say market breadth, which is I'll explain what market breadth is.
Okay.
So what it is, and there's a particular indicator I use on a website called StockB. A gentleman called Pradeep makes that, all for complete free. And what he does, he looks at all the stocks in the US market, which I believe there's around like 6,000 or so.
Yes.
And he goes, okay, on the day, how many stocks are up 4% versus down 4%? And then he'll plot a 5 and 10 day ratio of that. So you can say, okay, over the past 10 days, for every one stock that's down 4%, there's 2 that are up. So which means there's a lot more stocks participating to the upside than down.
Okay.
And then you will look at things like, okay, how many stocks are up 25% for the quarter or month versus down versus, okay, how many stocks are up 50% for the quarter versus down in the month. So you can start to see, okay, there's far more stocks in an uptrend right now than a downtrend. So that tells me that the whole broader market is participating in this move. So therefore, should stocks break out, or if stocks break out and pull back, which they do, is there going to be support to take it further, which is what you need. You don't want a stock to break out and there's no support to take it further, or to support it if it breaks, if it pulls back, because that means it's just going to go all the way back down.
Yeah.
So that's the ideal market condition for me, is where there's positive market breadth and there's a lot of stocks participating in this move as opposed to just one or two.
Okay.
And that typically only happens, you know, once or twice a year, in my opinion. I mean, the ultimate scenario is a 2020 scenario where they're cutting interest rates and they're printing money. If that happens, my risk appetite is on.
Is
full time on.
Yeah.
But in situations like this,
It was a good time.
yeah, I mean, it was a good time for all of us. I think I nearly quit my job and decided I was going to do this full time. And that was probably November 2021, which I believe was the previous top, is when I thought,
okay,
maybe I should do this full time. So I'm glad I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't as well. Okay, so a bit of sideways move on DroneShield, you guess. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, talking about NVIDIA now, because you were talking about the five pullbacks, the 5 retracements, the 5 bays, right? I really like the way you put the bays. I think it's a much more easier way to understand. NVIDIA have done a few bays already, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think is due to a correction. But the thing that is driving NVIDIA so high at this moment is the AI and is the participation on the Bitcoin as well.
Yeah.
Because the best mining, what's the name of the thing? I forgot.
Semiconductors.
No, not the semiconductors. Is the
CPU.
Yes, the GPUs.
Yeah.
Yes, the GPUs. So the best GPUs are from NVIDIA because they have better performance.
Yep.
So therefore, all the Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin crazies, they go and buy from NVIDIA. And they're not buy one, they buy huge tons of these. So NVIDIA has a big participation on this crypto market. Yeah. And therefore, when crypto is rising, NVIDIA is rising as well. So crypto, Bitcoin has reached all-time highs a few months ago. And when we look to it, yes, most probably NVIDIA has something to do with AI and cryptocurrencies. I want to know your opinion. Do you think that this hype is coming to an end? Or do you actually believe that, no, this can potentially continue to go higher because Bitcoin can go higher, because this hype can continue to go?
It could definitely go higher, but as I mentioned, it's on its 4th base. It is a little bit extended, so it's likely it may pull back a little bit and go sideways.
Okay.
But I find that you want like a blow off top. Like when you have a peak euphoria asset like this, it could be anything. It could be tulips, it could be Bitcoin, it could be a stock. You want like a peak euphoria blow off top. I would say it hasn't been an instance where maybe my mother or my girlfriend has asked me about NVIDIA yet.
Okay.
I believe when that happens,
Then is the top.
is probably around the top. But it is, as I mentioned, it's on its fourth base, so it's nearing the end of this move. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm going to short it because it's a difficult game to short. And again, I like to play the probability part.
Okay.
It's not easy to do it.
Okay. All right. So due to a correction, but not trading the correction.
Yeah, look, it could literally go down another 10, 20%, but don't be surprised if you just get this blow off top to the upside, liquidate a bunch of people who were short, and then do it again. Because
True.
it could do it. But I mean, you've got to look at it, right? I think it's valued more than Apple right now.
I think so.
And Apple is probably the most innovative company. It's involved in every industry you can think of, right? I mean, like there's a Australian stock, I'm forgetting the name of it, but they're worth about 1 or 2 billion, solid earnings, one of the, I guess, the tech leaders in Australia. And their whole business is it's like a tracking app. So let's say you know, maybe you're a wealthy individual and you want to know that your kids are at school, you want to know where your wife is, or whatever, you want to know where your car is. It's like a tracking app and you can track everything on your phone, right?
Okay.
I think it's called Family Safe or something.
I have one that we all use in my family to protection-wise.
Yeah.
I think it's Life 360.
That's it. Life 360. I'm glad you're
It's
here.
really good, man. Really good. My girlfriend always says, "Oh, every time you leave my home, you racing this car." I was like, "No, I'm not racing this car. I have to find something to prove I'm not like going over the speed limit." And then I was like, okay, Life 360 can do this job because there is, every time that someone gets in a car, it appears a little emoji that you are on the car and how much kilometers per hour you're going.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
it can.
You know,
Like,
I don't think
wow.
that's a good idea for you to do that.
Yeah, I know.
Because knowing you, I think you would speed.
Yeah, I do, actually. But every time then when you're walking, there's like little steps emoji.
Yeah.
And then how much kilometers per hour you're going
Yeah.
walking. If you're on the bus, there's a bus. If you're on the train, there's a train. It's so good.
Yeah,
really
it's a
good.
great product.
Yeah.
I remember trading that stock. Its stock code is 360. And okay, great product, great revenue, fantastic. Apple's doing the exact same thing with its AirTags. And they're in everything.
That is
Apple
correct.
Pay. I think they make their own semiconductors.
They did, yeah.
They're in everything.
Yes,
they're
they
in
are.
absolutely everything.
That's the thing. You become so big that you can't outsource.
Yeah.
You need to in-house
Yeah.
everything. Otherwise, it would be, you know, you're like, okay, wait a minute. So let's say for this iPhone here, right? This iPhone have like so many parts. You have the camera, you have the light, you have this glass here, and then you have this glass as well, and then the buttons, and then
you got the
motherboard, the everything. Yeah, you got everything, right? So Apple thinks like, okay, wait a minute. So if I can in-house this, I can charge more in the end product. Right, so why I'm not doing this?
Yeah,
and therefore they do it. So it's a crazy market, I would say, and there is a lot of more room, in my opinion, to continue.
yeah. And people will pay for Apple products.
Of
As we mentioned,
course.
people are conditioned to spend a lot of money for an Apple product because you know it's going to be quality. I can't see a company like NVIDIA that just does this one product sustain that valuation more than Apple.
Correct.
So again, I can see
and you know what?
A blow off top.
And another thing, sorry to cut you,
That's right.
Apple goes and every year do the exactly same thing for the double of the price and people buy it.
Yeah.
And people buy it. Like, not because they need. Do you think that a mobile phone can go over 1 year?
Mine has, yes.
Oh, my one has it as well, like 5 years already.
Yeah.
No, not 5, 4 years.
I think I'm on my third year.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. So what's the point of buying an iPhone every year? It's again the consumption fees, the getting to spend money. So that's a really good talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so just the resume here for NVIDIA. Bit tricky right now.
Yeah.
And potentially going to a retracement.
Yeah, I mean, look, how it is right now, I see in terms of how I do things, it's not something that I would buy or short, right? It's
so
had its
neutral.
Run. It's had its run.
Okay.
I believe it could definitely have a blow off top to the upside, but I see no reasons to want to buy it. And yes, do these things always end with a downtrend?
Yep.
Of course, but I don't have a higher probability setup to capitalize on that. Some people may be able to do it, of course.
Maybe, but it's a very risky trade.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's not worth the reward.
It's not worth it, yeah, for me.
All right, last one I will leave for you. Pick a stock that you want to talk about it and that you think there is a brighter future than others.
Okay, so
That's on you. It's all yours.
picking one is difficult. Maybe I'll do...
If you want a basket of stocks, let's say, like a mini portfolio of like 3 stocks or something, it's up to you.
Well, look, what I might talk about then, maybe Polynovo, PNV on the ASX.
Polynovo.
Now, it's a market darling in Australia, and one of the reasons why I like it, I talked about before how Australia has barely any industry.
Is it like a biotech thing?
Yeah, so it's a biotech company, and again, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on biotech, but effectively what they do is they have like their own patented biodegradable technologies to create things like skin grafts and bone healing technology, right? Sounds amazing. We can say, okay, that seems like a pretty
Really good
product, right? But again, I don't know anything about biotech. I'm not going to be able to tell you if it's good or not. I'm not going to understand patents. However, it's got the revenue to back it up.
Okay.
Massive revenue growth. The stock's been in an uptrend. It hasn't been smooth sailing for ages, but there's been many tradable bases on there, and it's an innovative stock in Australia, which there are a few of them, and I'll name some of them. We all remember Afterpay.
Yes.
Remember the enormous run? I was involved. I was involved in that, not the whole way, unfortunately. Another innovative idea that's now spread all over America. It was acquired by an American company. You look at Atlassian. I know it's listed on the Nasdaq, but that's an Australian company. And there's so many innovative Australian companies, and like Cochlear, another biotech company. It's one of the biggest companies in Australia.
Biotech, there's so much room, but it's so hard to understand.
Yeah, it is.
They're very, very hard to catch it.
That's why, look, because people always give me ideas like, oh, I'm buying this cannabis company because they believe it's going to be legal here and everywhere else in the world.
Cannabis is a good business as well.
It is.
Like, I'm not talking here about smoking cannabis. I'm talking about the business idea. It's it's really good business.
You literally grow it out of the ground and sell it for a huge markup. You're printing money. You're growing money on trees.
Exactly.
However, there's a million of them coming out. I want to see something that actually has revenue.
Difference. And has difference.
Yeah, and innovate. It's some sort of innovative product. Maybe they've partnered with we've all seen the success of influencers with brands, whether it be McGregor and his whiskey, or whether it be
Beast.
This Prime drink or Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast was just in Sydney.
Was he?
This week. On the Opera House. Gave away 10 Ferraris.
10? Oh, well, mate, how come no one told me?
Why? I wasn't there.
If anyone deserves to be given a Ferrari, it's me.
It's me as well.
I've worked hard for this. But yeah, look, if I saw a company that, had its supply chain sorted out, there was an actual area it was targeting, like, okay, we're purely going to focus this area and we're going to expand elsewhere. We have a good partnership with a big influencer. Could be a Sean O'Malley in the UFC, for example. I know he wants to do something like that. And they've got the revenue to back it up. I can see they're getting their costs down. I'm on board. And again, I don't have to be an expert on cannabis or biotech to see that. I just have to see an innovative product, a great plan, and the revenue to earnings to back it up. And you can see that in Polynovo. And then if I look at the charts...
And exactly happening days, right?
Yeah, you can see the exact same patterns that I see on NVIDIA or Afterpay or DroneShield. Again, these are all completely unrelated companies, but they show you the exact same chart patterns.
It starts on the base as all the companies started.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, Lachlan. Thanks, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
If you would give an advice for new traders, what would be the advice you would give?
If I could talk to myself when I first started.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
I see this in everyone. They want to get rich in 2 years, 1 year. What I would tell you
Even
is
1 week.
If you think about this as a long-term game, a marathon, and you go, okay, I have 5-10 years to get good at this. And I'm going to try and become an expert on one thing. You could do FX, that's fine, I've done that before. Don't just go, I'm going to look at every FX pair, focus on one. Go, okay, the pound against the dollar.
Yep.
What drives that? You could just say, okay, maybe the pound against the Japanese yen, you're getting, a 4 to 5% carry trade on that, right? And you can see the trend, it's been going upwards. I'm going to apply only to assets that have a positive carry, a positive swap, which, give me a call, I'll explain to you what that is and where to find them.
Yeah, good.
And then learn a basic, simple strategy to trade it. You look at the most masterful people, whether it be Messi or a trader, they make things look simple and easy. Like when I look at these surfers, right, that are experts, I look at Messi, it looks simple and easy. And that's because they've mastered it and because they've spent so much time doing it. They're not someone that's just come on board, given it a crack for 1 year, tried to find shortcuts.
And then move again.
It doesn't work. As soon as it becomes easy, as soon as you get a setback, which is always going to happen in life, you move on to the next thing, the next shiny object. Look at this and go, okay, I'm committed to this for the next 5-10 years. I'm going to master it.
Yes.
I'm going to master it. Pick something.
Yes.
It's this particular FX pair, or it's stocks that are only growing their revenues, right? And then find a simple strategy to apply to it.
Yep.
And then what I would also do from there is try to find a network of other traders. If you don't know where to find them, give me a call. I can be your first place. I can introduce you to some people. I'm happy to, I have my own kind of groups that I talk to people and I post ideas to. Have a chat with me. But there's plenty of, look at Twitter, one of the best places for it. Go to YouTube. Everyone's posting about trading, whether they're good or not.
Yep.
Find a community, collaborate with them.
I do webinars every Tuesday and Thursdays. I'm always there.
There's like 5 people here that you can network with.
Yes,
we're dying to speak to you.
Yes,
right?
that is correct.
Give me a call, send an email.
Awesome. All right, guys. Again, Lachlan, thank you so much for
having me. It's been
aboard.
Great.
That was really good chat. Guys, please give us a thumbs up on the video, share this content with your friends, and if you're watching on the YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That's very important to us. It shows that YouTube, that you're actually liking the content we are producing, and it's not easy to produce all of these content.
It's not.
We're always here having different ideas and trying to get us some more people to coming in. So it's always great you guys show some support to us. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good weekend or a good day, whatever time you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Lachlan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Luca.
Bye-bye.